It's time to get medieval on your ass. No, welcome back to A History of English Theatre. And today we're going to look at the medieval cycle plays and morality plays, which is where we kind of land ourselves in England now. I kind of like took you on a bit of a clickbaity. We've started off in Greece, we've gone to Rome, and now we're in England at last to talk about English theatre. And it's where theatre starts to become a bit more recognisable to us, I think. Like each step is getting us closer to what modern theatre looks like. So in the medieval period, there are kind of four types of theatre that are really common and really popular. You have the mystery plays, and the mystery plays are those which tell Bible stories. So at Easter, you might have the oh no, so like they would be like the parables that Jesus tells, or like they'd be concerned with some of the New Testament stuff, maybe some Old Testament stories as well. But they were very much there to kind of like help people understand the Bible. You have the morality plays, which are plays which have a personified concept such as like angels or demons, and they don't tell a story from the Bible, but they're still like very heavily Christian and religious, which is a theme to the medieval entertainment, I have to say. You have some farces as well, which are comedies, kind of similar to what we've had in the Roman period. Fast paced, they rely on dramatic irony. So, dramatic irony is, I'm sure you know this, but for those who don't know what it is, dramatic irony is where a misunderstanding happens and the audience know what the misunderstanding is, but the characters don't, and therefore it's funny because we watch the characters like spin around trying to figure out what's going on. It's like in Scooby-Doo, we always know that there's someone under the mask, but the fun is watching the characters get to the point where they know that there's someone under the mask. So that would be like the farce and the going down corridors and into different rooms and all that stuff. Um, and then you also have something called masks, which come towards the end of the medieval period. So we're talking about from the 5th century to the 15th century. Masks start to become popular in the late 15th century into the 16th century, and they mark a transition from medieval period to Reformation theatre. Yeah, Reformation. And kind of Renaissance. So typically masks are kind of more courtly performances. They have more like fancy costumes and they're more elaborate stage design, but they're not the kind of thing that the like every person is going to see necessarily, because a mask is happening in the court, whereas the cycle plays, the mystery plays, the morality plays, those are happening for everyone to see. They're happening in the town centres. And I think very deliberately so you have like the backdrop to this change in theatre is that there's been a since the Roman Empire the Roman Empire, the seat of power, moves further east into Constantinople, and then the new kind of EU superpower or the ancient EU, not medieval EU superpower, the new kid on the block is the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church has a problem. So they need to entertain the masses and they need to like tell people about what's in the Bible and what the rules are. But they need to do that without any stories of old pagan gods. And they need to do that without any kind of like writing, because most people are illiterate. So books and pamphlets are expensive to produce. And even if the peasants can read English, they can't read Latin. And that's what the Bible's written in at this time. And the church need them to care, and they need to entertain them and to grab the hearts of the people, because they are looking to tax people. And people aren't going to pay for their immortal soul if they don't understand why that's important. So theatre at this time is used very much as a vehicle for the church to spread the word and to kind of establish like a cycle. And the cycle plays are sometimes referred to at this point, and they're usually the mystery plays, so stories about the Bible, and they follow the cycle of the Catholic calendar. So for example, at Easter you would have the Easter pageants would be part of the cycle plays. Or at Christmas, you would talk about the nativity. So nativity plays are like our basically start in the medieval period. So for every parent who's had to sit through hours just to see that like 5 minutes of their kid dressed as a donkey, the medieval period is what starts that. So that's kind of cool that those still exist. But yeah, so because the church is all about trying to spread the message, the way that theatre works tends to be very transitional. So you have the masks that happen in the later medieval period happen in fixed locations because they're entertaining people at fixed addresses. But early on in the medieval period, the cycle plays, the mystery plays, the morality plays are travelling around different towns and different cities, and you have theatre troupes become these almost like a kind of circus energy. So if you think like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, because we're back to Disney because I'm a Disney kid, the Hunchback of Notre Dame, like Esmeralda arriving with all those entertainers is what it would be like for like the theatre to show up in your town. And you know, theatre troupes have a bit of a reputation of maybe being a bit like, you know, that it's that carny vibe. But you know but they're also, what they're doing is they're carrying stories with them. So they're carrying news from other towns with them. They're carrying popular songs with them. So we start to see this cross-pollination of information across England, from the south up to the north and back down again, through these theatre troupes and through these travelling minstrels and bards that are coming to entertain towns transitionally. And you also do have some like localised cycle plays. So like your local nativity would happen every year, just like it does now. It'll happen every year in the same place, but around that you've got people showing up in your town centre. And like another place where we can still see this happening, which I think is really fascinating, is that we still have like mummers, which are plays that are very like physical, and like you might see like people wearing costume for like, it's almost like kind of Renaissance fairy type vibes. People are in costume. George and the Dragon is one that sometimes gets like, it finds its way into an English village. Someone's dressed as George, someone's dressed as a dragon. They have a fight in the town square. Kids are entertained. Everyone's happy. People are drinking cider and beer, and it's a good time, right? So that still happens all the time, and it also actually travelled from Europe over to Philadelphia. So there is like, I love the Philadelphia's Mummers Parade still happens every year. And people still dress up and they still perform and they parade through the town and they entertain people. And they've been doing that since the 5th century, and I think that's wild. So that's another reason why theatre's cool. Like, I'm not trying to persuade anyone, but it's just like one of the reasons I love it is because look at it, it's like some of these things are still going, they're still entertaining people. So there's, you know, the thought that we're finding the same things like attention grabbing that people in the 5th century found attention grabbing, I find kind of, I don't know, doesn't art unify people or something? It's, you know, it's, I'm gonna get soppy and gross. Let's move on. So, but it's staging because of let's go into staging and technology for theatre at this time. So like, because theatre's travelling around a lot, oh, pardon me, sorry, I'm like coughing up a lung. Because theatre's travelling around a lot in this time, the staging continues to be temporary. So in ancient Rome, we see the invention of staging that could be set up and removed from like specific sites. And in the medieval period, more often than not, staging is entirely temporary. So it's designed to be moved around. There's lots of like fabric throws, wooden frames, packed up into a cart, moved on to the next town. And typically, it would have like audience all around it as well. So people are kind of like playing out to the audience. And there would be maybe like a little scenery screen for actors to hide behind when they weren't on stage, but that it's going to be sparse. You're going to kind of see the like workings of the theatre happening because it's just like rocked up in the middle of the town. But as we kind of come into, so I talked a bit, oh, that's the mummers again. Can't get enough of them mummers. There we go. So as I talked a bit about the masks happening towards the end of the 15th century, in the mid 16th century we see another shift and the masks become more and more popular. And King Henry VII decides to build what's called the House of Revels. So it's and establishes the Office of Revels, which is a specific position in his court who reported to the Lord Chamberlain and is basically like the medieval equivalent of like the social secretary for royal festivities. So that was a job that someone like one that he probably gave to one of his mates. Party Dave, sorry, Sir Party Dave, probably had the job of like the Office of Revels. And with that shift, we start to see theatre become return. So with the like the amphitheatres of ancient Greece, we start to see theatres becoming more permanent again, and in big cities, we start to see established theatres happen. And in London in particular, we have like some of the big famous ones, like the Globe, but we'll save going into detail about the Globe for next week because that is part of the story of the Reformation, which is both a boon and a bit of a bust for English theatre, and is one of my favourite periods because it is like there's a lot going on and it happens in a relatively short period of time. Like we've been talking like periods of like hundreds of years. The Reformation, there's a lot of change that happens in a very like within people's lifetimes. It's generational, the change. So we kind of start to see theatre changing quickly alongside the changes that are happening in the wider political landscape, and I think that's pretty cool. So come back for Reformation next time. Cheers, give us a like, give us a comment, bye.